I'm Bernie Hartman. That's what everybody calls me. I don't go by Herman Bernard Hartman for reasons that are obvious, I think. But at any rate, I'm originally from Baltimore with schooling in New Jersey as well as Virginia. But yeah, I got my bachelor's degree at University of Maryland in entomology, and then moved on to American University in DC to get a degree in biological sciences. And after that, went to University of Connecticut to get my Ph.D. In physiology, comparative physiology specifically. And from there, I postdoced at the U.S. Army Natick Labs, Natick, Mass, for a few years, and then moved on from there to a faculty position at University of Iowa, Department of Zoology, which was a great experience, I might add. I love Iowa and Iowans, particularly at that time. Then moved to a faculty position at Texas Tech University for 14 years. Enjoyed that, mainly because we had two daughters then, and then took a leadership position at Duquesne University as chairman, where I was for 11 years, and associate dean of sciences. I knew about Ashland. I knew about the Ashland Medford area and the Rogue Valley because in 1970, beginning in 1970, I would bring my students out to the University of Oregon Marine Lab in Charleston. And as part of, we would go there for research, and occasionally I would teach at the U of O Marine Lab. So I'd bring graduate students out and some undergraduates. And for a break, we'd come down to the OSF and see plays. I'd bring the students down here for plays, and then we'd go back and go to work again, go to work. So we knew the area pretty well. Although there is a story about us retiring here that's, I think, is amusing. My wife's a scientist too. She's from Yamagata, Japan, and I got her degree there, undergraduate degree there. But when we decided to retire, I went to a book that came out with the 100 best places to retire at that time in 2000. And I whited out all the IDs of 5 that I thought she might be interested in. Everything from Asheville in North Carolina, Austin, Texas, you name it. All right, about 5 of them. And so I presented her with these 5 and said, pick 3 that you might be interested in and rank them in order. A week later, she came back and she said, there's only one I'm interested in, and it turned out to be Ashland. So that's how we ended up here. A good friend of mine, neighbor, physician, invited me to meet a friend of his whose name was Warren Wolf. He was a painter, an artist, and a very fine one. And he was teaching in SOLIR, teaching a course in SOLIR on art history. So we talked about it a little bit, and really interesting guy. We're a collector of his art, I might add. I took his course and said, hey, this is a great idea, this SOLIR thing, Southern Oregon Learning and Retirement. So after I finished my teaching at the U of O, which I was continuing to do at that time, I joined OLLI and started teaching. I taught my first course 2002 on the visual system and art, and the interaction between what we see and what we experience. I could see problems. First of all, with my record in academia, I've been involved with grant proposals and all kinds of things, federal grants, private grants and whatnot, from day one actually. And so at that time we had this one building, and it was not in very good shape. And being an instructor there and having to use overhead projectors and slides, and the other instructors too, I decided, well, maybe I should run for council and get involved in the leadership role. So I got elected to council in 2005, I think it was. And I have a belief system that says if you're going to be involved in an organization, you do something in that organization. That being an OLLI, when the OLLI or SOLIR Council is, I don't regard as an honorary position. I view those kinds of positions as you do something. I put together a group of people to see what the needs were for solar at that time. And I'd like to acknowledge those people, and I've got a list of them here. Allison Renwick, Martha McIntyre, Dinah Quirk, Terry Doyle, Larry Kellogg, Don Velasco. Those folks, we got together and did some planning. It was a planning group. And the list just went on and on and on. The needs were great. We had 600 members. We're offering 35 courses each quarter. The facilities weren't up to the instructors. The instructors were much better than the facilities, and I felt they deserved better. So after our group got together and planned what the needs were, then I started looking around for who would fund something like this. The feds don't fund anything like this, as I found out very quickly. But up popped the Osher Foundation, run by Bernard and Barbara Osher. And so, believe it or not, back in 2005-06, we had websites, and they had a good one. They had a good website. So I wrote them. I wrote them a short letter and said, we'd like to apply for a grant to you folks. I think, and I described who we were very briefly in that letter. And said, we'd like to apply. And got a letter back from Mary Bitterman, who was the head honcho of the group at the time. She's still there, I might add, saying, you don't apply for a grant, we invite you. All right. So I wrote them another letter and said, please invite us. And again, I described us. She in turn contacted Jean Stallman, who was head of extended education at that time, and asked her about what was going on here. And also, to my amusement, asked if if we had a program here, would it interfere with the University of Oregon's program? Which had just gotten funded, they were a year ahead of us. And she told them, no, we're down here in the Rogue Valley, and it's a 4-hour drive up to there, And they have a model, I might add, that's entirely different from ours. Theirs are groups, interest groups that meet, much different than our course set up here. So at any rate, we got the invitation to apply for the grant. And again, some of the same people, we took our needs list and put together a grant proposal to them. And again, Jean Stallman, and let's see who else was involved. Char Bowen, Sally Klein, who was an administrator here, and with Gail Myers, and I have to acknowledge Gail. Again, he did the television show that we did here for a year, and So we took all the data we had gathered, even census data, I'm very thorough on that sort of thing, and turned it over to Ray Emery. And Ray Emery essentially authored the final version of the grant. And it wasn't very long after that that we got our grant to go from solar to OLLI. The first grant was $100,000 and pretty much went into media right away. And we've seen it evolve over the years, the media, you know, since 2006 or 7 rather, evolved greatly. It was a pleasure to use a laptop and computers instead of slideshows and overhead, although we had people who insisted on continuing to use those sorts of things for their classes. At any rate, that was the story, and we went from 600 in the next few years to doubling that number, mainly because a group of us went out to all the libraries and all of the retirement residences. We sang for our supper at the Lions Club, you name it, every organization. A group of about 3 of us went to all the places, the retirement residences, particularly the Rogue Valley Manor was a biggie. We organized a series of lectures at the Rogue Valley Manor, given by, again, a selected group of instructors, and had anywhere from 70 to 150 people showing up at the Manor for our talks about the wonders of OLLI and giving examples of courses that we taught here. We got another $100,000 grant then, and after that, an endowment of $1 million. You know, and then we've had a second $1 million too. So we're on reasonably firm financial grounds here. So that's basically what went on. A lot of talks by some of the instructors at various places to get people over 50 to think about becoming members of OLLI. I hate the motto, "This is the way we've always done things," okay? And there were a group of people who felt that things shouldn't change, okay? They weren't very vocal. It was behind the scenes sort of thing, and the members of our group got feedback from these folks. But we persisted, and they came on board, you know, without a problem. I mean, let's face it, the people who teach here are wonderful, and there's so many more opportunities than ever before to take courses, and a variety of courses, which we didn't have when we had only 35 a quarter, you know. I'm proud of the fact that, first of all, that Gene Stallman made a good leadership move to move to the Higher Education Center and begin offering courses there. So I'm glad that she was able to do that, and I'm glad that she recognized that need. But yeah, I think my main accomplishment was taking a leadership role and getting the OLLI grants. And I'm really proud of the people who followed me, who persisted in leadership roles as well, so that things continually improved. If you're over 50 or you're retired, it seems to me you have to keep your body in shape and your brain in shape. And the brain is part of your body. It ain't a muscle, but it needs exercise. So to anybody even thinking about it, it's a friendly group. You make nice connections, meet a lot of people, similar interest or dissimilar for that matter. But you meet a lot of people who are inspiring in some cases by their commitment to continue to be alert and alive. And that's a big plus for anybody entertaining OLLI, absolutely, yeah.